Please join me in welcoming one of the best men I know, Dr. Black Jack Matthews.
Are we on? Okay, thanks. This is Kelly. Nice to see you. Colonel Barnum. Nice to see you. I spent 10 years at Lejeune. I went down there as a captain and left as a lieutenant colonel. And a lot of good things happened to me down there. Bad things happened. I'm not here to talk to you about the good. I'll tell you about the bad. Probably the worst thing that happened to me was my wife and 3 little boys drove out of the parking lot in June. Drove out of my life. That's the end of my family. The reason they drove out of the parking lot because 99% of the reason I was a drunk. Functioning drunk. I don't say alcoholic because it sounds like a wine and cheese guy to me. I was a drunk. So, there they go. And I had gotten home from Lebanon and I got orders through Quantico to teach tactics at Command and Staff College. So I remember leaving Camp Lejeune. Hell, I felt like I got out of jail. I don't know if you guys have been to Lejeune. In those days, it was pretty austere. I got to Quantico and I just checked in and General Hudson was 2-star. He's an aviator. He had Marine Corps schools at the time. He says, I want you to hurry up and unpack because I'm taking you to Europe for 9 weeks. I said, 9 weeks? Come on, sir, I just got back. I've did a lot of deployments in Lebanon. While I was at Lejeune. He said, this is not a request, it's an order. Are you shitting me? I said, yes, sir. So, you know why I didn't want to go to Europe for 9 weeks? I was on the wagon. You guys know what I mean by being on the wagon? I wasn't drinking. And I knew I could never go to Europe for 9 weeks without drinking. I absolutely knew that. So, off we go. First stop is Madrid. And we gave a talk at the American Embassy, and they had a party. The ambassador had a party, and we're all in Alphas. They're giving a big party afterwards, and some Spanish officers come over and said, have a drink. I said, hey, no, thanks, I don't care for one. A little while later, they circled around and said, have a drink. I said, no, I really don't care for one. So one of these guys, he was a major, said, can't you handle your booze? I said, you shitting me? Give me that. I can handle my booze. Well, there you go. I started spiraling down into acute alcoholism. And I worked hard, PT and everything, while I was in the Marines, but I started spiraling down into acute alcoholism. And I got home from a trip. I was a faculty advisor at Quantico with a wearing a uniform. And they had a party outside the gate at Camp Lejeune, and I had a Portuguese major who was in my conference group, and he gave a party. All he was drinking red wine. Now, I don't know about you guys. I can never drink wine. You know why? I always get shit-faced on wine. I don't know why, but I always did. Well, this night, that's all I had to drink, so that's all I drank. And I came out, and there was an ice storm blowing through North Carolina, upstate Virginia. And I got my brand new 280Z. I bought it when I got home from Beirut. I drove up 95, and a lot of accidents. I made it. I figured, hell, I need another drink, so I got off the Interstate 95, went to a place called Charlie Brown. Walked into Charlie Brown's, have a drink. Next thing you know, I came to, and I was rolled up in a rug next to my fire. I had a little townhouse next to my fireplace. I rolled up in a rug I bought overseas, and I pissed all over myself and all over the rug. Somebody threw my keys inside the door, and I went and picked the keys up. And I went into the garage, no car. I looked out on the highway there where I lived and there was no car. I had not a clue how I got to where I was. You guys know what I mean by blackouts? So I figured, I surmised my car is probably down at camp, this place called Charlie Brown, so I jogged down 5 miles and there it is, all covered with ice. So I get in and I defrosted it and I drove it home. About 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning, in March of 1984, and I remember sitting there on my couch saying, God, I just shook. I remember, I'm being very honest with you guys, alcohol had kicked my ass. And I never wanted another drink in my life. Never. And I knew I could never go through the rest of this day without a drink. You want the dilemma of an alcoholic? There you go. I don't ever want another one. You know, hell, I know I can't make it the rest of the day. So, I think running saved my life. I always used to run when I was hungover. I'm not a doctor, physician, or anything. I just felt that somehow running saved my life. Fast forward another month, and I'm living that way, and I'm required to be at a faculty party in Quantico. General Toomey, the 3-star, invites everybody to come over to listen to this GS Magnificent from the State Department is coming down to talk to us. I didn't want to be there, but it's a coat and tie affair, and I'm required to be there. So all the colonels, all the generals, and a couple of us lieutenant colonels that were invited, we all went there. And I'm sitting in the, I ran a 9-mile loop at noontime, empty stomach. I always drank at an empty stomach. You know why? I could get drunk quicker on an empty stomach. So I go over to the Oak Club, had a couple of beers, empty stomach, adjourn into the Waller room, sitting there saying to myself, you know, I ought to get out of here. Because drunks get drunk in the most inappropriate times, don't they? God, they get drunk at the most inappropriate times. I was speaking at Marine Corps Ball, I won't tell you where, 2 years ago. You know, the cake ceremony? This Master Sergeant, face down on the dance floor. I said, I better get out of here, but I didn't, so I stayed. So next thing you know, I come out of another blackout. Wake up, boom, I come out of this blackout, strange bed, strange room in a strange house. I checked myself to see if I pissed the bed. I didn't, so you know what I said? Hell, I didn't get that drunk last night. You know, unfortunately, that's the way I measured my sobriety, or how much drinking I did, whether I pissed the bed or not. And I'm sorry, but that's the way I lived my life. I didn't piss the bed, so I got home, tiptoed out of this guy's house, went home, changed into Charlie's, and I taught a 3-hour class to a bunch of Marine majors. Command Staff College on Friday morning. At the end of my class, Colonel Jack Garcia, standing there like a drill instructor, got his hands on his hips, back at Ellis Hall, and he says to me, come here. Yes, sir. He said, and I quote, you get your ass down in my office and wait for me. That's all I said to him. Ooh, Jesus. You know when you've been had? So, you know, I knew I wasn't going down there to get a meritorious service medal for my European trip. So I go down there and I stand there at attention. Garcia walks in the door, slams the door, looks at me from behind his big desk. He says, you got a hell of a drinking problem, Colonel. You know what you did last night? God damn, I hated that question. Did you ever get asked that? No, don't answer that. I said, sir, I don't remember. I'm sorry. He said, sorry's not good enough for you. He said, you owe General Toomey an apology. You owe this guy from the State Department an apology. You owe everybody at the party an apology. I said, what'd I do? He said, you know, I was blacked out. He said, you stood up in the middle of this guy's presentation. Apparently he's talking about Beirut. I know Beirut. I had a battalion in Beirut. Brigadier General Lariviere was Lieutenant Recon with me in Beirut. Apparently, he said the State Department had done everything to prevent the bombing of the Marines. You know, we lost 241 Marines and sailors that day. Welcome to war-class terrorism, incidentally. Apparently, I stood up and told this guy where he could stick his opinion, using the F word. You with me on this? And I was told my conduct was unbecoming a Marine officer. You know, I'd tell that guy the same thing today if I could, but I was blacked out then. So Garcia said, you have 1 week to tell me what you plan to do about your drinking. You get in here back next Friday, you tell me what your plan is, and I'll tell you if I agree with you. Yes, sir. So, hell, I don't, you know, I know I'm really, the shoe has finally dropped in my life. My career is over, so I went over to the rehab center there. We had a level 3 at Quantico. I looked in. I said, shit, I can't go in there. Nothing but a bunch of drunks. I mean, they look bad. So I called the base psychiatrist's office. The lady answered, can I talk to the base psychiatrist? What do you want to talk to him about? It's none of your business, lady. Just let me talk to the psychiatrist. So they said, I wanted to talk. They said, the earliest week you can see the psychiatrist is 07:30 on next Tuesday. I said, fine, I'll be there. So, hung up the phone. Don't know what I'm going to tell the psychiatrist, but I'm going to see him on Tuesday. Went home and got drunk. I woke up Saturday morning saying, I must be going crazy. I had a career-ending incident at the club. Made an appointment to see a psychiatrist, got drunk again. What the hell's going on with you, Jack? So I said, you know, I'm not going to have a drink Sunday. I'm going to go a whole day without drinking. Like hanging out at a pull-up bar. And you know I made it? I said, shit, I owe myself a beer. You know, at the end of that day, went to work 9 April 1984 and getting ready to PT, and the phone rings at base psychiatrist's office. You Lieutenant Colonel Matthews? Yes, ma'am. Dr. Funk, psychiatrist, would like to see you right away. So I get over here. So I go over to see Dr. Funk, and the lady gives me a cup of coffee. Now I'm really hungover and nervous. I don't know what I'm going to tell this guy. That's the way I'm handling my coffee. I spill it all over myself. Dr. Funk sees me. He says, come on in here. He said, sit down, Colonel. So he said, what's the matter with you? I said, you know, Doc, I'm a drunk. I can't stop drinking. I don't know what the hell to do. He said, tell me about it. So he walked me through my drinking career. At the end of about an hour and a half, he says, you are a drunk, Jack. He said, well, it's okay for me to call myself one, but I don't appreciate you calling me one. You kidding? He said, no, for you, the fight's over. We're sending you to Bethesda tonight. Not tomorrow, next week, tonight. He said, just get your ditty bag and go home, be up there at 1800. I said, well, I appreciate the offer, Doc, but I got a lot of shit to do in life. And going to rehab for 6 weeks is not one of them. He said, this is not a request, it's an order. You want me to tell you to go to rehab, or you want General Toomey to tell you to go to rehab? I said, I'll take it from you, Doc. I don't want to see General Toomey. So he said, get up to the rehab center, and I get up there at 1800. I'm sitting there in my Charlie's, and a Navy nurse comes out, and she's holding a piece of paper. And you know how everybody's in the emergency room. She says, Lieutenant Colonel Matthews out here? I mean, I was going to stand up and say, yes, ma'am, that's me. She says, the guy for alcoholism. I walked over to that lieutenant nurse and said, I thought this shit was anonymous. And she says, never mind that, Colonel. Get in the room and change into your hospital smock and get back out here. I got to give you a full physical before I put you upstairs.